The soft hum of the city below my apartment was the only sound that kept me company as I sat by the window, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee. The morning sun hit the silk of my blouse just right, and for a moment, I allowed myself to feel calm. Calm, but not naive. I had learned that peace was a fragile thing, especially when reminders of the past could strike at any moment. My phone buzzed on the marble counter, startling me. I glanced down. It was a notification from the court portal. My heart sank, and then, just as quickly, a strange mix of irritation and anticipation washed over me. $900. That was all my ex-husband, Jason, had been willing to provide for our son, Noah, month after month. $900 to support a child he barely saw, barely knew, barely cared about. I pressed the screen, my fingers trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the memory of every sneer, every dismissive text, every argument that had ended with me clutching my son and promising him he'd never feel powerless again. The apartment smelled faintly of vanilla from the candle I had lit earlier, and I could hear Noah's laughter from his bedroom, the one thing that had kept me grounded through sleepless nights and endless legal battles. And then I saw it, the judge's notice. My ex had argued he couldn't pay more. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of years of frustration and hurt. The words on the screen made my chest tighten, but this time, the tightness carried something else. Hope. Finally, justice had a price tag that even Jason couldn't ignore. I remember that night as if it were yesterday. The air in our small apartment had been thick with tension, the kind that makes every word feel like a grenade. Jason had leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smug smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. $900 is more than fair, Olivia, he said, his tone casual, like he was discussing the weather. But I felt a storm rising in my chest. My hands shook as I clutched the crumpled notice from the court. No, it's not fair, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Do you even realize what it costs to raise Noah? Clothes, school supplies, doctor visits, everything adds up. And you're giving him, less than what I spend in a week. Jason scoffed. I work hard, Olivia. That's my contribution. Stop acting like I owe him the world. A lump formed in my throat. I remembered staring at him, seeing not the man I had married, but someone I barely recognized. The fear of standing alone gripped me, but deeper than that was the fury. Fury that I would let my child be shortchanged. Fury that I had allowed myself to be dismissed so easily. That night, my grandmother's words echoed in my head, her voice soft but firm. Olivia, no one can hand you respect. You claim it. You protect what matters. And never settle for crumbs when a feast is yours to take. I clutched the delicate gold locket she had given me on my 18th birthday, a reminder that I carried strength and wisdom from generations of women who refused to bow. I could feel its weight against my chest, and it gave me courage. By the time the clock struck midnight, I had made a decision. I would not beg. I would not plead. I would stand, fiercely, for myself and for Noah. I opened a new bank account in my name, researched legal advice late into the night, and drafted my first demand letter. It was a small step, but it was mine. Independence had never tasted sweeter, even if it came with fear and uncertainty. I went to bed that night with my son sleeping peacefully beside me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. That hope would grow, fueled by determination, until the day I could finally look Jason and the world in the eye and show him just how far I had come. The first months after leaving Jason were a blur of exhaustion and tiny victories. I had no choice but to throw myself into work, juggling long hours, late nights, and the unrelenting weight of bills and responsibilities. The office smelled of printer ink and coffee, and I often stayed past midnight, watching the city lights blink against the dark sky, imagining a life where I wasn't defined by what I'd lost. It wasn't easy. There were days when I doubted myself, when my confidence cracked like fragile glass under the pressure of rejection emails, cold calls that went unanswered, or clients who underestimated me because of my gender. But I had a mentor, Claire Donovan, a seasoned woman in finance who saw something in me that I hadn't yet recognized. Olivia, Claire said one late evening as we pored over spreadsheets in the quiet office, don't let anyone set the ceiling for your dreams. You decide your worth, not them. Her words were a bomb and a challenge all at once. I clutched my coffee cup, watching the steam curl upward, and felt a spark ignite inside me. I started small. Freelance projects, consulting, taking any opportunity to prove I could provide for Noah and myself. The first paycheck I earned on my own felt surreal, $500, but it was more than money. It was validation. Each success built on the last. The first major client who trusted me with their portfolio, the first profitable contract, the first time I realized I could pay our rent without worry. Even as my confidence grew, I kept my victories quiet. I didn't post them online. I avoided family calls that might reveal how far I had come. This was my armor, my private triumph, a way to protect myself from judgment and envy. My apartment transformed slowly, subtly, with personal touches that marked my progress. A new painting here, a better desk chair there, but nothing ostentatious. There were nights when self-doubt crept back in, whispering that I wasn't enough, that Jason's words were true. But then I would glance at Noah, his head resting against my shoulder as he fell asleep, and I remembered why I was doing this. I wasn't building a life just for me. I was creating a fortress of stability, independence, and pride for my son. Every challenge became fuel, every rejection a lesson, and every quiet triumph a stepping stone toward a day when I would finally stop hiding, when I could stand tall, unafraid, and face the past with the strength I had earned. The journey was long and sometimes lonely, but with each passing month, I felt myself reclaiming what had been taken from me. Not just money, not just respect, but my own power. The day Jason showed up at my office, I felt a strange calm settle over me. He walked in expecting to see the frazzled, exhausted woman he had dismissed years ago. I could see it in the tilt of his head, the flicker of expectation in his eyes, as if he anticipated seeing me still struggling, still begging for scraps. But I wasn't that woman anymore. My office smelled faintly of polished wood and fresh flowers, a subtle reminder of the life I had built. The walls were lined with abstract paintings I had chosen myself, each one a small testament to independence. My desk gleamed under the sunlight streaming through the large windows, the city sprawling beneath us, like a reminder of limitless possibilities. I sat behind it with perfect composure, my hands folded, my posture regal, and a calm smile playing at the corners of my lips. Jason hesitated, his gaze sweeping over the space. Olivia, his voice was unsure now, a shadow of its former arrogance. I leaned back in my chair, letting him take it all in. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, the disbelief, the shock, the shame beginning to nibble at his pride. And then I let the words fall. You wanted to see me struggle, I said softly, letting each syllable linger. You thought $900 was all I was worth. You thought I couldn't make it without you. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand, stopping him. Let me show you something. I picked up a folder from my desk and laid it open. There it was, bank statements, contracts, investment portfolios, and a legal document confirming my net worth and ownership stakes. $6,500 a month, the court-mandated child support he had fought against, was a fraction of what I could easily manage. And Noah's well-being? Never in question. His face paled. I saw it shift from disbelief to shame, a brief flicker of guilt. Olivia, I smiled faintly, not unkindly. No, Jason. Save it. I don't need apologies. I need accountability. I needed this for Noah, and now it's official. You'll provide what he deserves. And believe me, it's not charity, it's justice. I could see the embarrassment in his eyes, the slow realization that he had underestimated me, dismissed me, and had no idea who I had become. The powerful, confident woman in front of him was not asking for respect. She had claimed it. Even his parents, who had accompanied him, shifted uncomfortably. They had expected to encounter a struggling daughter-in-law, a woman clinging to the remnants of a marriage gone wrong. Instead, they found Olivia Bennett, composed, prosperous, and entirely untouchable by their past judgments. I stood and walked past my desk, letting my presence fill the room. Each step was a reminder of the long nights, the sacrifices, the tears, and the victories that had led me here. They could see it, feel it, and understand in that moment that the old narrative no longer applied. Jason swallowed hard, and I knew the day of reckoning had arrived. Not through anger, not through confrontation, but through undeniable truth. I had built a life that no one could ignore, and the power I held now was not just financial. It was the peace and confidence of a woman who had refused to settle for crumbs and had claimed her feast. I watched Jason shift uncomfortably in the sleek leather chair, realizing for the first time that the dynamic between us had changed entirely. The man who once dismissed me as desperate and powerless was now the one standing in quiet awe, unsure how to respond. I let a small, calm smile settle on my face. It was the smile of someone who knew she had the upper hand and wasn't afraid to use it wisely. "Let's be clear," I said, my voice soft but firm, rolling over the room like an unspoken gavel. "Noah deserves stability, consistency, and respect. You'll provide $6,500 per month, as mandated by the court. And beyond that," I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. "If you want to be a part of his life, you need to commit fully. No half measures, no excuses, no more shirking responsibility." His jaw tightened, but I could see the recognition in his eyes. This was not punishment for him. This was expectation. Accountability. And he would meet it, whether willingly or not. "I want clarity on your schedule, your involvement in Noah's activities, and your willingness to communicate respectfully with me," I continued. "No yelling, no manipulation, no last-minute cancellations. Noah's life comes first. Always." Jason opened his mouth to protest, but I lifted a hand, cutting him off. "And just so we're clear, these are not suggestions. They are conditions for your continued presence in his life. You have the chance to rebuild trust, to change habits, and to become the father he deserves. But make no mistake, I will not tolerate old patterns." I glanced at his parents, who had come expecting to witness a struggle, perhaps even to condescend. "And for you," I said softly but pointedly, "support means more than words. Offer guidance, encouragement, and respect for the choices I've made. You've seen what dismissiveness brings. Now see what respect can do." There was a long pause, filled only by the soft hum of the city below and Noah's faint laughter from the schoolroom next door, a sound that reminded me why I was here, why I had fought, why I had refused to settle. I leaned back, letting my presence fill the space. Compassion mixed with firmness in my demeanor. I cared about Noah's future, and that meant being clear, unyielding, and intentional with the people involved. Power wasn't about revenge. It was about structure, boundaries, and teaching accountability. Jason's expression shifted from shock to reluctant understanding. I could tell he realized that this wasn't about him being punished. It was about him stepping up or stepping aside. And for the first time in years, I felt the satisfaction of justice, not fueled by anger, but by unwavering resolve. I had claimed my power, and I had set the terms. And the world, or at least the people who had once doubted me, would now follow them, or watch from the sidelines as I flourished anyway. Weeks passed, and the change was quiet but undeniable. Jason began showing up for Noah's baseball games on time, bringing homework help and, occasionally, a rare, sincere apology. The payments were consistent, and even his parents seemed to soften, offering words of encouragement instead of judgment. I watched it all unfold with cautious optimism, knowing full well that change wasn't always linear, but also recognizing that my resolve had created the structure for it. One evening, I sat on the balcony with Noah curled beside me, his small hand in mine. The city lights flickered below, just as they had when I first started my journey to independence. I felt the weight of everything I had endured. The nights spent crying quietly, the fear of financial instability, the constant tug-of-war with a man who refused responsibility. And I also felt the weight of how far I had come. A mother who had fought tirelessly, a woman who had claimed her power, and a life that was fully hers. I reached for the gold locket my grandmother had given me years ago. Its warmth pressed against my chest, a reminder of every lesson she had passed down: strength, courage, and the refusal to accept less than I deserved. I held it close and whispered a quiet thank you, not just to her, but to the version of myself that had dared to fight, dared to believe, and dared to rise. Noah laughed at a joke he had just made, and I smiled, realizing that the peace in his voice, the stability in our lives, was the true victory. Not revenge, not money, not recognition. It was freedom. It was the certainty that we could thrive without depending on anyone who didn't value us. I leaned back, breathing in the night air, letting the city hum around us. The court had ordered $6,500 a month, but what I truly earned wasn't a number. It was respect, independence, and the knowledge that I had built a life where my child and I would always come first. And as I watched Noah yawn and curl into sleep, I realized that strength wasn't about fighting every battle. It was about winning the ones that mattered, with grace and unwavering self-respect. I smiled one last time, whispering softly to myself, "We are enough. We always have been."